So thanks for that. Caught Yes again last night up at Nassau Coliseum. Another great show. And in fact, after the show, we spoke with Steve Howe. So we have conversation with Steve talking about the new Union album. And also we'll have some conversations with Bill Bruford and Alan White that were taped earlier also. Also, local singer-songwriter Karen Farr will be dropping by performing. The whole band is setting up here. It's going to be a major production. A movie deal could follow this, so stick around for that. But first, the new Yes album, Union. Now, it isn't actually available in the stores until the 30th of April, which is a week from this Tuesday. But I have got the actual CD here. It's a beautiful picture CD. It will be available commercially as a picture CD. And the album does feature all 8 members of the band. Not all on each track, however, so we will try to explain it. I do have the credits, and we will try to explain what happens here. So let us begin by having Steve Howe attempt to perhaps explain what's happening in this new Union CD from Yes on the Sunday Night Alternative tonight at 94 WYSP. Ed Sciaky here, and we've persuaded Steve Howe to stay up late into the night after the Nassau Coliseum gig to look for the first time at the actual Yes Union CD and see if he remembers anything at all about recording any of these songs, which ones he wrote part of, played on, remembers the names of, or anything like that might shed some light on this new album. How about it, Steve?
Well, I think that's going to be very difficult. It's a very tall order, because here we have an album that's been it's a mega construction job. You know, I mean, this is like building, you know, the Hancock Building in Chicago all over again. This album, I'm on it somewhere, and amidst the other reputable names of John Anderson, Bill Bruford, right, Tony Kaye, Trevor Rabin. Ed's not letting you know by laughing, of course, that I'm reading who's on it. Just, it's late. But we'll kick off with I Would Have Waited Forever, which I wrote with John, and Jonathan Elias helped put it together. This tune has got everything you need. It kicks off the album very, very nicely. I think you'll like the album at this stage, and I wish you luck with the rest of it. No, I'm being sarcastic. This sums
pretty
up.
Song, really beautiful.
It's a pretty song. It goes up, it goes down. You know, it's definitely got some yesness about it, and it's got. I think I like the end. But, no, I like all of it. I'm being very facetious here.
We have the next track up, which is the tune that you might have seen Yes perform live at the Spectrum last week, one of only 2 from the album that they've been doing live so far on the tour. And this is another Anderson, Howe, Elias composition called Shock to the System. Here, Steve Howe comments.
The next track is called Shock to the System. And this is a heavy-ish track, riffish. Not really repetitive, other than it's rhythmical, I suppose, as opposed to Yes moving into sort of like we did with the earlier track.
But it's got the little vocal hook that's very Yes-like.
Yeah, there's this vocal twist, and there's the sort of acoustic guitar break, and yeah, I wrote this one with John, and Jonathan Elias helped us do it.
You wrote that? Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and the next track, isn't my name on it? I mean, you sound somewhat surprised.
I haven't had a chance to look at the actual credit. I believe you. No, I didn't really. Because actually I was thinking that was a Trevor Rabin song because of the heavy beginning on it, but no. Okay, well, great. Shock to the System, as we mentioned, those first 2 tracks written by John Anderson and Steve Howe, along with producer Jonathan Elias. The Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe team basically on those tracks, and let's see if I'm trying to see if I guess they do list, yes, bass by Tony Levin, but Chris Squire added some vocals on that first track, I would have waited forever, and also some of the other tracks, Without Hope You Cannot Start the Day and Dangerous. So still mainly much of it is just Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe, and Levin tracks. So moving along to the 3rd track on the album, Steve Howe talking about his guitar contribution called Masquerade.
So Masquerade is, of course, the most wonderful track on the whole album. It's the one where Steve Howe humdings. No, it's actually Masquerade's a rather gentle track, a bit new agey, really. It's like picking. It's a bit like what the kind of playing I think Paul Simon could do as well. He's this kind of guitarist, I think. But this is Steve Howe, not Paul Simon. Why should I give Paul a plug? He wouldn't give me any songwriting credit on America for all about 10 minutes guitar solo. But Masquerade is my contribution. Recorded it myself, had a bit of fun, and it's really quite simple.
Yeah. Well, hear a bit of our conversation, in fact, our whole conversation with gentleman and percussionist, really jazz percussionist, Bill Bruford. Bill is he's so funny. He's just very laid back about the whole thing, very matter of fact, kind of shows up at the gigs with his briefcase. It's just like another day at the office, so I kind of tease him a bit about that. So we'll hear our conversation with Bill Bruford, taped this past week while they were in town, and then we'll get back to more of the Yes Union CD, the first track released so far, and that is Lift Me Up coming up. So hear the conversation with Bill Bruford. Ed Sciaky here on the Sunday Night Alternative, grabbing a quick word with the man who once in a while drops in and joins in, yes, occasionally when he's not busy with other things, Mr. Bill Bruford. Hi, Bill.
Hello, Ed. How are you doing?
Very good. The show in Philadelphia was absolutely awesome. You have to tell a little bit about what it feels like to get on stage in Philadelphia and hear that roar.
Well, it's quite a sound. I mean, it's loud, believe me. Anybody who wants to go and stand in the center of 20,000 people and be shouted at, I mean, it's an industrial hazard. It's a great sound. It's a thrilling sound, and of course, Philly is really the home of this band, obviously. So it's quite a feeling.
It's got to be more fun than playing jazz in some club in front of a few people who politely applaud, huh?
Not necessarily. There are different kinds of fun in life.
Does it give you kind of an ego thing? I mean, when people just roar, or I mean, I know you're part of a machine now that plays this music.
Well, it's exciting, Ed, but let's not go any further than that. There are plenty of other things in life that are exciting too. That just happens to be very nice, you know.
What else is exciting in life?
Playing in a club to 400 people with jazz.
I see. You guys are really getting on well, and a lot of people must have told you that seeing you and Alan White play together is a kind of a dream, and it's kind of weird too because your styles are different. You recorded a lot of things. He's been playing them live. Now you're together and you're filling in with each other, and it seems like it's really fun.
Yeah, it is fun, and it's nice that the music isn't exactly the same as on the album. I think that there is a sort of expanded 8-musician version of some of these pieces. I think is exciting. I think Yes was always perceived of as being a small orchestra anyway. And we always thought of it as such, and now having 8 people to bring that stuff about it's a tremendous amount and weight of sound, particularly towards the end of the evening with Awaken. I think it's where that tune happens to suit the 8 people very well. Some tunes suit 8 people better than others. Sometimes you can't use 8 people on the clap, for example. But on Awaken, it happens to be sound like a bit of Mahler at the end, so it's great.
It was like a spaceship lifting off last night, especially with the lights spinning around,
Good.
You've done, I guess when you did with Genesis, you played with Chester, I guess. You played with Phil. Okay, you played right before Chester came in, right? And that was a kind of, sometimes synchronized kind of thing. But in some bands have done kind of a cliche, I don't know, the Allman Brothers, where there's like a synchronized drumming where the guys seem to always be playing the same thing. And you're doing not that at all, it seems.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of function in exactly duplicating things, although you can derive a sort of extra energy from that, and we do that for small parts at the time, in, for example, Owner of a Lonely Heart. But in general, I'd rather devise a secondary percussion part that complements what's going on.
Yeah, I noticed in Heart of the Sunrise, Alan is letting you do the whole, Alan just steps away.
Yeah, we have a concept here of lead and rhythm drums, like you used to have lead and rhythm guitar, and one guy tends to lead and the other guy tends to support. So I think that's about the best way of getting around that particular problem.
And you and I, Bill, Alan kind of basically takes the power role.
He has the lead drums there, and I'm in the support position. Yeah.
And you mentioned Owner. He takes it from the beginning, and then you kind of join in.
Right, just at a critical moment in the tune where it can use a kind of a lift, or it seems it's doing fine. But I mean, it is possible by adding another drummer to get that extra mileage out of it.
Right.
And that works well.
Yeah, also, I noticed on Long Distance Run Around the Fish, it starts with the old band and changes to the newer band.
Yeah. You know, we have every possible way of doing this, and I think that makes sense. Even though I recorded the Fish with Chris, it is, of course, Alan that's been playing that for the last 20, however many years. So that would be seen better for him.
Was it as an idea to deliberately change the bands, or it's kind of subtle because it does change from the exact early band to the exact later band?
That was the idea, that was the plan, and there's nothing very subtle about it.
Right.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Well, it's subtle in the sense that if you only see the show once, you might not notice it because it happens during that changeover in the solo.
True, and also Long Distance Run Around, of course, is us, and Heart of the Sunrise is the older guy. I tend to take the lead at the front part of Starship Trooper. And Alan supports me there, and vice versa. So there's ways around this, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the new album. Now, you kind of, I guess you were working on the Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe tracks, and you didn't really work on the Squire, Raven, White, or did you? Did you add something to them or not?
No, I didn't. No, basically there was an album happening in Europe, in south of France, which started out as going to be a second Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe album, and was more or less completed, and that consisted of Howe, Bruford, Wakeman, Anderson, and Tony Levin, the bass player.
Right.
And we were there in France making an album in the time-honored way, of 5 people in a studio, and you get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you rehearse till noon, and you start doing tracks at 1 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock you have something, and that's the way we were working.
Now, which of the tracks? I know you're not exactly sure because would you actually work on them when they're? Did you put the rhythm on first, or how does it work?
With our tracks, basically we're all recorded at once. People then touch up if they want to, or if the arrangement needs to get changed, it can be so done. But generally speaking, on tracks such as I Would Have Waited Forever, Shock to the System, Without Hope, Must Be Love, Silent Talking, The More We Live, Dangerous, Holding On, Take the Water to the Mountain, and Evensong, those were all tracks that we did for a more or less complete ABWH album, at which point our manager decided, wouldn't it be interesting, because these other tracks by Rabin, and basically Rabin demos that were being created in Los Angeles, Miracle of Life, Lift Me Up, and there's a reggae one too, Saving My Heart. Those were created by Trevor, basically, in Los Angeles. If they came on the album too, and John sang on some of those and so forth. So it's really 2 albums that melted into one.
So Tony Levin is on those tracks, is that right? Or did Squire, Squire replaced him?
Oh, Tony Levin's on our tracks, and Squire is on the LA tracks, as it were.
And Squire added vocals to your tracks, is that it? But not bass, is that it? Yeah. But it's Levin.
As I understand it, that's correct.
As you understand it.
But, I'm a functionary in these things. So it's a lot like, I think, the Hollywoodization of rock. I mean, this is a big budget movie. This is Lawrence of Arabia, and it may well be that Meryl Streep is doing a love scene without knowing what the car chase is like,
Can you tell us any of the specific ones that you did play, and anything particular that you might want to say or interesting that we should listen for, or how they came about, or things like that?
Oh, that's very hard. No, they were all much for muchness. They were developed from Steve Howe's guitar bass, basically, from the basis of his guitar playing. A lot of riffs and lines he had with Jonathan Elias, the producer, suggesting lyrics to John and chord changes on those riffs. And they were created that way, and there's a whole set, and all 5 or 6 of these tunes sound as though they originated from the same modus operandi. They all originated in the same style. So no, nothing particularly special about them. For me, they were all just tracks you do as a pro musician.
So, I know you tend to come off sounding kind of a little blasé sometimes when you talk about this, and I don't think you mean that. No, I don't think you mean.
Would you like me to be a little more hysterical?
No.
Try if you like.
No. But I mean, I know that you.
I'm an Englishman.
You
understate.
Well, you kind of make it seem like it's another day at the office, and I know you care about what you do, and I just want to.
There's a lot of people in offices who care very much about what they do.
But I wonder if you, I mean, are there, as the years go on, are there certain, and there's just playing them live endear you more to them in terms of specific ones you might like playing better, or the ones you think are more interesting, or the ones that you think your parts are more interesting, or how do you, put them in?
They all sound better after they've been played live. You construct them somewhat artificially in the studio, and often a song takes a while before it tells you how it wants to be played. It has a certain life, a good song does. Yeah. And eventually it becomes second nature, and there never seems to have been a time when there wasn't Roundabout. And the Roundabout was played a certain way, and that's the attractive thing about it. In the studio, it's a bit of an artificial construct, but after 20 years, it's like putting on an old coat.
And this is not a band really that took songs out on the road very often and then recorded them later. That's
almost never. That stuff is very good actually to do that.
Yeah.
But bands were, the way the industry ran, again, another unfortunate side of the industry is that they want the record first before you've made,
When you do your jazz records or your like with the band Earthworks, I mean, is it quite different? You're constructing the music yourself, starting with the drums, rather than putting drums on a song?
Often the music originates from the drum set, in the sense that the drums can now play the chords to these things. I have a hybrid drum set, which, as you heard in the drum solo, the drum duet last night, I can play chordal stuff from the drum set. So many of my things pertaining to Earthworks come from the jazz drum set. But yes, recording live with jazz, you tend to keep the whole take, and then you compare 2 or 3 takes and pick one of them. As opposed to editing, snipping, flying backwards and forwards from LA, recording in 5 different studios.
And is it more interesting, I mean, musically to you, or?
It's more interesting musically to me, yes, because there, in a way, more demands are made, yes. Now, it may well be that for a songwriter, of course, the Union album is more interesting. Rock, in general, is a songwriting thing. Yeah. It has to do with producers and songwriters, which is great. Yeah. Bless producers and bless... I don't happen to be a songwriter or a producer. If you're interested in drumming, on the whole, it's jazz that you'll listen to.
So, but isn't it curious to you, and I remember, I'll never forget the famous incident when we showed up at Penn's Landing and 50,000 people were there to see UK, largely because you were in it, and largely because they knew you from Yes. And it's that whole kind of fame thing where it must dawn on you that your, quote, fame derives more from playing over the years with Yes and so on than your jazz records or your club dates or whatever. Of
course, that's totally natural.
And what you think is your, I guess, your real talent or the thing you like to do better.
That's totally natural.
Yeah.
One is a majority taste music, one is a minority taste. Yeah. Obviously there is a mass sound to Yes that reaches a lot of people. And that's fine. And other music is not so designed. And there are specific things that musicians do and include in the music or exclude from the music to make sure that you'll listen to it.
Really?
Of course.
And why is it people have
the music, for example, is recorded within a certain dynamic range. The beat doesn't fluctuate. Yeah. The beat doesn't come and go either in dynamics or velocity. But just take a simple example. Yeah. You therefore will feel comfortable with that.
How about, I know you got to go, but Awaken is such a bizarre, I mean, what is the structure of Awaken? And I mean, you didn't record it, but you play it. And what is it about it rhythmically, I mean, that makes it so, it's rather a strange piece of music, I think. I love it.
It's quite strange, yeah. I only came across it a week or two ago, when this is the first time I heard it. So I had to learn it. In fact, I have 2 pieces of paper up on stage to remind me what's coming next. And a few strange
how would you describe it structurally, musically? And don't be afraid to go over my head with it, because I just want to know.
Well, it's relatively complex for rock. It's like a small symphony, isn't it, in a way? It's got meter changes and various other things in it, and a long, empty passage in the center with no rhythmic feel, with a very quiet 6/8 feel on some bells. Right. It's got a lot of 11/8 stuff at the front. It's got a few different time signatures in it, a few changes. Nothing that your average guy isn't going to handle, but it's in comparison to the 3-minute current rock single, it's relatively complex.
So is it more interesting to you?
Yeah. For me, it's a little more interesting, sure. Yeah. And because I move from percussion to bells to gongs to drum set, but that's more fun on the whole than playing a basic 3-minute cut.
Was it hard to learn it and hard to play? Is it hard to play it?
Yeah, I did have to walk around in Florida with a pair of headphones strapped to my head for 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, you have to learn. I mean, it's a bit of work. You know, you have to aside from the 3 hours music we're playing, of course, there was the inevitable other hour or so that we all learned that, of course, didn't get used.
Right,
so.
Right.
And I know relatively little of this music. I mean, large portions of it I'd never heard before, you know, so I had to do my homework.
You should get into it. It's good stuff, Bill.
Yeah, I know that. I like
I'll get you a tape.
Yeah.
Bill, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Good luck on the rest of the tour. I'll see you many times.
All right.
And good luck with Earthworks. Bill Bruford of the Earthworks Band, currently, briefly appearing with Yes on tour. Thanks, Bill.
Now, Lift Me Up gets us into gear with the LA sort of bass side of the group, Trevor Rabin and Chris Squire song. Without Hope You Can't Start the Day, Stroke Must Be Love is from our side. I play on that. In fact, I play 6-string bass and guitar on the guitar solo, along with Tony Levin, who's on all these tracks, incidentally. That all not Lift Me Up so far.
We'll finish off really what is the end of side one, if there is a side one, as far as the cassette goes. And this is a pretty nice track from the pen of Trevor Rabin. This is again one of these demos that Trevor was working on. And in fact, it's one that he kind of played for John with amidst of a. John told me that he just played him a bunch of different songs, and John kind of picked this one out. And Trevor said, "No, I don't think that one would work or whatever." And John said, "Oh no, I want to do it. I want to sing it." So he did a Trevor Rabin solo composition. Obviously, John Anderson on vocals, and real interesting. I think it's good. I think it could go as a pop single later on. That might be the plan. John Anderson, Trevor Rabin, Chris Squire, Alan White, and Tony Kaye playing on this track as we finish up part one of the Yes Union CD with a song called Saving My Heart. At 94 WYSP, Karen Forrest coming up.
Miracle of Life is once again from the LA side, so we will be editing this bit out.
No, but you could talk about. I mean, you've heard it. You haven't. I guess you've never played it. Have you worked on it at all or live? No.
We have. We've rehearsed Miracle of Life.
Because it's very old, Yessie. Yeah. I would have said it was an Anderson Bruford track, and that's isn't that funny that I would have said Shock to the System is a Trevor Rabin, but I would have said this one was an Anderson Bruford.
Yeah, well, that is what's so kinky about this album. Yes. You just can't tell what's going on. But when you read the credits, when you get a magnifying glass and get to the real fine print, it's almost like a contract, this record. You have to find out who's on what.
It's not a record, it's a deal.
It's a deal. Right. It's a deal a minute. Okay, Miracle of Life, as we said, from the other side, but sounds a bit ABWH.
There you go, the Miracle of Life from Yes Union. And interesting track. I love that track. Next one, we have more commentary from Steve Howe. Steve gets down to the nitty-gritty here to talk about the next track on Union, which is a track called Silent Talking, another John Anderson tune.
Silent Talking, well, here's the story. This track, once again, a little bit turbulent here and there, a little bit inner battle here and there. But this one, the second half should have been, almost Topographic Oceans. But it got edited. Ye who held the razor blade shall deal with God and me at another stage. But it got edited and it got kind of mixed up where the guitar's beautiful, John's beautiful as well. So we battle it out in the most unsympathetic way, but fortunately you can hear John better than you can hear me, so I'm kind of buried playing my Gibson stereo with unbelievable intensity.
But you'll just have to sneak us a secret tape.
Steve Howe is whispering. I have my own tape where come
on, let's have it, the alternate mix. All right.
And then
94 WYSP Silent Talking. That's another track from the Yes Union CD, and of course a John Anderson tune. Let me just check the credits here. I think he probably wrote it with the producer of the album. Oh no, actually this is interesting. The song is credited to John Anderson, Steve Howe, Rick Wakeman, Bill Bruford, and Jonathan Elias, the whole band, plus the producer. So there you go, Silent Talking, and here's Steve complaining about the guitar being lost in the mix. But you see, this is honest programming here. You get the honest truth from the members of Yes here on the Sunday Night Alternative. Here our conversation coming up now with great drummer Alan White. We heard from Bill Bruford earlier, so now we will hear the opposing viewpoint. Actually, they're getting to be famous friends, and they're really playing great together on the road, so it's really an exciting thing to see Bill Bruford and Alan White together. Here our conversation with Alan White. And now for the rest of the story. Forget everything Bill Bruford had to say. Now we'll get the real story from Mr. Alan White. Hello, Alan.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Good show in Philadelphia, gotta say.
We enjoyed it. Being this early in the tour, it was kind of like a pressure on the band to perform to their fullest in Philadelphia, but I believe that we came up to expectations. Everybody loved the show.
Yeah. Really awesome. I was talking to Bill earlier about this whole thing and how you two playing together for the first time is just so interesting, and I'm really very moved by the rhythms in a lot of Yes music, and I've always told you how awesome I think you are in terms of power. I mean, there are moments in you and I and Awaken and so on that it's just physically moving to me. Some people think I'm nuts, but it moves me.
No, I mean, that's what we over the years have developed Yes music into probably taking the technical side of Yes and making it more emotional now, and putting more movement in the music, more like orchestral movement within a rock framework, and that's what we work towards, and we're really achieving that nowadays, especially with an 8-piece band, which is more like a Yes orchestra than anything, that you can add orchestral parts to it.
Is this a dream or your worst nightmare to have Bill Bruford, the guy who you replaced, and after 18 years of being the guy who replaced Bill Bruford and finally being the Yes drummer, he comes back? I mean, I know it isn't, but I mean...
No, not at all. I think it's just I think it's interesting and very challenging to make both percussionists that have been in Yes work together and add to the music more than anything. And we're taking what we've developed and even hopefully making it even better by there being two. So there's a lot of very positive kind of things about the whole situation.
People might think that drummers are kind of wild and crazy guys. I think maybe Liberty DeVito is pretty wild and crazy, but the mighty Max Weinberg is much more like you guys. Bill and you are very quiet guys off stage, and yet you have this power. You're the guys responsible for the... You don't think you're quiet off stage, Alan?
I don't think either of us are. In one sense of the will. But we're not crazy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, we like to have fun.
Yeah.
At the appropriate times. Yeah, I know what you're saying. We kind of more laid back.
Yeah.
But
is that a drummer's personality to generally you get your aggression out on stage rather than?
No, I think most instruments in a band, I think I've quoted this before, I can pretty much tell what kind of guy plays what kind of instrument anymore. Bass players stand out like sore thumbs. I mean, and drummers are usually pretty crazy, and I think Bill and myself are both probably eccentrics in certain areas, and
but soft-spoken, I mean, and quiet a little bit.
Yeah, probably the aggression.
Well,
on stage.
Maybe down to, I mean, not, your egos don't seem to be really great, and I know that's part of why you two can play together. And you're just it seems like you're having fun exploring each other and exploring the possibilities of creating this music with two drummers and drums and percussion and whatever.
Sure, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And, to a certain degree, where they say that I'm kind of the meat and potatoes of the band, and Bill's the hollandaise sauce I just heard on the radio, which is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. But we've taken the music to, not so much another level, but we've moved the music forward into the 90s. And play it that way. And
maybe elaborated on it.
Elaborated on it, and like I think I said before, orchestrated it and moved it more like symphonies move up and down with feeling.
I was saying I noticed that Bill played Heart of the Sunrise, and
I thought it was only appropriate. I mean, it's a song I love to play. Don't let me out. I mean, it's a wonderful song to play, but I thought it was only apt that Bill performing on the record, and it being a Billism type record, and the kind of interesting percussion he did in the original version on record, that he do it on stage. Yeah. So,
is there any? I know, like in Long Distance Run Around the Fish, it kind of starts with the old band and changes to the L.A. band through the course of the solo. You know,
we thought that was we did Whitefish, which is a thing that Chris and myself do, but it's basically the bass solo that I move along up and down in percussive directions. We thought it was interesting. They do their version, and the new band kind of takes over. It's an interesting part of the set that people see that both bands can play both things.
Is there any sense of, because you had spent most of the 80s with the L.A. band, is there a kind of a sense of comfort when you were with that grouping rather than the guys that you hadn't been playing with, or even though you certainly played with most of them?
Not really. I suppose so. I mean, it's just comfortable because I've been playing with Chris for so many years, and Trevor's been in the fold for almost 10 years now. So there is a sense of that being the framework of what is going on.
Do old, old relationships? I mean, because you had the drama band with Steve, and then Steve kind of is associated with the other band. I mean, it was all these permutations. I don't know if any of this baggage ever goes through your mind. You just think about the music.
Probably yes. No, we never think about that. We just get into playing music. In fact, there's odd times in rehearsals when we picked out more things like our phone drama and stuff like that. Not to play, just to reflecting on licks. And Steve and Chris and myself were playing parts of drama, but nobody else played in the band. Because it was another era.
You do a little bit of that. Yes, you do. In the
That's right. Yeah. In the Whitefish thing.
Let me ask you about the tracks that you were associated with on the new album, Union. I have a list here, and maybe you could just, if there's a few, you could specifically. Do you know which ones are which, and which ones?
Sure. Most of this stuff that you see that is from the 9-1-2-5 type lineup.
Right.
On the album was stuff that we were preparing for the new Yes album. Lift Me Up was a song of Trevor's. Also Miracle of Life, which he wrote with another friend of his.
Really?
And
because that reminds me very much of the older style Yes.
In fact, the beginning reminds me a lot of Close to the Edge. And it's very reminiscent of that kind of thing. So that and Saving My Heart was from us, and what else was from us on here? Oh, Let Go, too, which was another track that was written by Chris and a guy called Billy Sherwood. But I was involved with from the birth of the track, really. It started, that track, with Chris and Tony and myself actually doing it in rehearsals while Trevor was touring, that track. The initial spark came from Chris.
Did you add rhythm first to these tracks and then Trevor putting the lyrics, or do you kind of put the rhythm to a song that's already done?
No, Lift Me Up was a computerized. It's one of the very few computerized kind of Yes things that we did, where it was almost finished other than having real percussion on it. And I went in and put the real percussion on it, which changes into more of a real situation.
You play the same in the studio as you do live, do you think?
Yeah, over the years of doing lots and lots of sessions, you get used to playing with that format. But some of the new Yes music, as it were, has been done like that, but usually we all play together first. If it is done like that, we go through a period of playing it live in rehearsals and working it out first.
There was going to be that in the new Yes album. Is this kind of a detour, this group thing, or do you think this is going to stay this way? Or what's gonna what the future will be?
Well, everyone's been very open-minded about where this will go. There is a contract in existence to make another 3 or 4 albums with this format. If possible. So we've just been open-ended about it and just getting on with the tour. Even this tour has been talked about being extended to South America and Japan and Australia. So People are just, getting on with it. It's very early days in this tour.
I get the feeling when you finally got out here on the road, you're kind of even like a little amazed at the response. You kind of forgot that like millions of people are waiting for this to happen and like can't believe it and are so thrilled about it.
No, well, I think we're amazed that we're getting songs right more than anything. I mean,
right. You need to. The fans demand it.
Right? The fans demand it, yeah, because you get people who come up and say, "Oh, the third bar of the second song you play tonight." We get people that really.
That ding, that elevator ding. That's what I want. I was missing it in You and I.
No, Bill plays it. He plays it on a triangle. In fact, Trevor came up to me last night. Hi, Fish.
Hey, it's Chris Squire.
Are we still on the air?
Yes, down the end. In fact, Trevor came up to me last night and said, "You missed the ding." I said, "No, Bill plays that bit. I go do 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 do, and Bill plays it over there somewhere."
I just wanted Mike louder. The elevator ding reminded me.
Yeah, it's actually almost in tune with it. Yeah.
Is that where that came from? That elevator ding? You had it?
No. It was a little triangle what Bill was playing around with.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, it's got to be fun for you, and it's so emotional. I mean, I tell you the truth, I really, it brought tears to my eyes after Awakening when you guys got up and hugged each other on stage. I know it's a little bit that you do every night, but it just really says so much that you guys are going to put everything.
I think it's felt. It's not staged at all. It's a real good sense of feeling. I think it's relief of getting through the whole set together more than anything. No, it's probably, there's a lot of emotion up there when you get 8 major players in the story of Yes up there on stage, finishing such a long set of great music.
And then you got to do it again the next night and the next night.
Well, the schedule they've got us doing, we're doing 5 in a row now and a day off and then 6 in a row, so there's 11 gigs in 12 days is a lot to be doing, especially when we're playing almost 3 hours a night.
Yeah. Alan, thanks a lot, and we'll let you go, and I'll see you again, and it's just great to have all you guys doing it, and great to have you back out here on the road.
Thank you.
Next is a John Anderson, Rick Wakeman, Jonathan Elias track, which is very much John Anderson, obviously, in his very yesy arrangement, and in fact, John told me that since Birthright, this is the most favorite arrangement that he has participated in, and the track is quite mystical, and it is called Encore What?